Welcome to episode 93 of the Highly Relevant Podcast. I am your host, Jack Rico, and if this is your first time listening to the show, thank you for discovering us. If you don't know about the show, Highly Relevant is a weekly podcast that I've put together for the last year and a half now, and it's for those who have an interest in American pop culture, but with a Hispanic twist. In this show, I usually interview the journalists, celebrities, media executives who are reshaping our view of entertainment in the United States. It's changed, definitely. So I want to introduce you to two magnificent guests that I have for you for this week. The first is Miguel Sirgado. He is the editor-in-chief of HOLA USA, one of the most important Hispanic magazines in the United States. Him and I discuss bilingual strategy for reaching today's highly divided US Hispanic. Yes, it's a myth that we're all together. No, it's a divided Hispanic community, but they know exactly how to target all of us at the same time. We also talk about the criteria for defining what a Hispanic celebrity is. So, for example, is Bruno Mars Hispanic? And why he was at one point hesitant in taking the job. Then I chat with Alonso Ruizpalacios. He's the Mexican director of Museo, one of the best reviewed Latino films of 2018 starring Gael Garcia Bernal. Him and I explore why he wants to make movies for people who shun predictable endings and why Mexico is more interested in celebrity than its own country's problems. We begin with Miguel Sirgado. Hispanic magazines for a long time have catered to Spanish-language dominant Latinos in this country. But things are changing now. New research has shown that Latinos are consuming more English-language content than ever before. This is why Miguel Sirgado, editor-in-chief of HOLA USA, is embracing a bilingual and bicultural vision that separates him from the pack. Miguel Sirgado, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, Jack? It's so good to hear you and to talk to you.
No, mira. So we know each other from a previous magazine where we worked together there for years. Then you had left the magazine. You were on your own for a while. And then I remember you had then started working at HOLA USA. And one day to another, I blinked and you became the editor-in-chief of this great magazine. And before we go into how you got the job and how you're adjusting and your vision for the magazine and everything, tell a little bit about what the HOLA magazine brand is.
Well, as you said, HOLA magazine is it's a worldwide brand. I mean, it was founded in 1944. As HOLA, and it's basically a magazine that is it's been very dear to Hispanic consumers around the world. Later on, they opened Hello magazine, which is very famous too. It's right now it's a family-owned company that has basically 30 editions, international editions around the world in 10 languages, in 5 continents. So yeah, it's a huge enterprise, basically led by the effort of a family in Spain, which is a very distinctive way of producing magazines today. I mean, we all know where the world of publishing is going, or the changes that are going on. And it is incredible that this family 2 years ago decided to get into the US, which is really one of the most difficult markets.
I was just going to say that. Why did it take them so long to break into this market? And why is it a difficult Hispanic market to break into?
Well, first of all, they did study this market for so many years before entering here. I think it's a mix of reasons. There is this personal pride of this company to have a magazine in the United States right now and try to survive and grow in a complicated market. And there is also the thing that, there is a brand that is very dear to a lot of people. when you think about HOLA, in the case of Hispanic market, you think about our grandparents reading. I mean, I grew up looking at HOLA in the houses of my
Yeah.
grandparents, my parents. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's something that is very dear to consumers, as Coca-Cola it is of another brands that are like historical brands. Um, I think Ola has the opportunity in the US to basically capture that spirit and come out and discover, and respect the core of this publication, which is, Ola. It's basically like a leader in royal news and also celebrity news around the world. So why not being here? I mean, we've been trying to discover who's the royalty of the US and also bring the royal news to the United States in a language and a form that is close to what we think our readers want today.
You know, it's interesting you say that because my opinion of Hola has always been that it's a very aristocratic magazine. It's high society. And, there's other magazines that cater to more of a lowbrow Hispanic, for example, or a mass consumer, right? And this one has always been, to me, just very niche, very, very upscale.
I think it is also a matter of perception. Again, I think the fact that Hola was one of the first in the magazines in the world, publications in the world, to cover royals, that make it thing that is an aristocratic or kind of niche publication, but actually we do cover entertainment and we do cover royal news, but there is a way that we do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is this like Hola touch for Hola and for Hola readers. First of all, image is something that is important to us. The way we present news, we can be talking about the same people. We just present it in a different way.
Right.
For us, image speak more than a story itself. So it's all about the images we give access to our readers. Also, the fact that we try to give people like the human aspect of the celebrity behind the fame. It's like we want to see the person behind the fame, and that's something that Ola try to do all the time. Also, there is so much bad news in the world that we try to bring like a little bit of
sunlight, sunshine.
El lema, the motto in Spanish of Hola is La espuma de la vida.
La espuma de la vida.
La espuma is what you see encima de la cerveza, That little thing that floats, that's what we try to bring.
The foam, right.
Yeah, that lightness, that something that will entertain and give a positive touch to our lives.
So how did you end up at Hola USA?
Well, I was working for I just finished a documentary about Cuba 3 years ago, and I got a call from a good friend that they were looking for someone to be a deputy editor, and I came aboard with my experience in other publications. And printing is something that I really like. To tell you that, to be really frank, I was very surprised that a magazine was opening in a moment.
Yeah.
Such a difficult time.
Yeah, because we know what's been happening with Time Inc. It no longer exists. Right. It got folded. Now it's Meredith, and Condé Nast has been having their problems. Many magazines have been going down. But it's interesting. The Hispanic market hasn't really been touched, or like it's still there. And yeah, I was kind of surprised too. So what were some of your thoughts about getting into a market that was in transition?
There is always an opportunity. I think it is a matter of again, the way you present. I mean, yes, it is an oversaturated market, uh, but I think you got the the support of a brand that has been there since 1944, and they know how they do things. There is also the compromise of this family that wants to that respect publishing, and the value uh, of readers, and it's a great experiment to really discover what the market needs. I mean, obviously there is a need for this kind of publication, and we just have to uh, find those needs and meet them and deliver a great product. And I think we're doing that. We're on the way of doing that. We've been in the market here in the U.S. For 2 years and a half already, and I think we do have a great product that we're discovering the needs of this market from the perspective of a brand that exists in 1944, sorry.
Yeah, that's a long time. Now,
Yeah.
For the listeners that might not know what an editor-in-chief does, because we hear editor-at-large, managerial editor. Some people can be confused with the position or the job description of an editor-in-chief of a magazine. What exactly is the job of an editor-in-chief?
Well, let me tell you something. Those days is a lot.
They've changed too much, huh?
I do wear a lot of hats. And my job is basically to be involved in the process of creating the magazine from conception to the end. To
wow! Okay.
To everything,
so when we see the magazine, you essentially have envisioned everything.
Well, yeah, that idea of a glamorous job as the Devil Wears Prada is just fiction.
The days of Graydon Carter and Anna Wintour, those days are gone.
That only exists on fiction, on movies. We do everything. We are a very, very small team of very talented people. And I must say, I'm very happy with the people that I work with. But we are a very, very small team. And we do everything, as I told you, from conceptualizing pages to make them happen, to like designing, to everything. I mean, those days you have to, to make an enterprise like this one to work, you do have to wear all the hats,
right?
And not having a problem doing it. So part of my professional life has been in publishing, and I started from the bottom of the chain, and I can say I'm happy to do everything, to be able to work with people that knows also how this industry works. It's easy to be like, today I see a lot of people that come to me and say like, oh, I'm a writer, I'm an influencer. I'm like, well, do you know how to make a magazine?
They're two different
things. You know how
it's
to
like,
write.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the same to write a caption than to make to do a magazine, to produce a magazine.
Miguel, there's been so much about preserving the language of Spanish and being Spanish language dominant in this country for cultural reasons, for historical reasons. So many studies and researches have said that Hispanics, little by little, and I feel like it's been the last 5 years, have really driven themselves to seek English language content. The young generation is speaking more English than ever. They're becoming more Americanized than ever. So many executives dismissed that. They ignored those numbers. And now we're here. So tell me about your editorial strategy. When did it kick in? Did you have conversations with the owners? We have to go English. We got to pitch the English. What was the study? Did someone bring research to you? How were those conversations about taking the magazine into a bilingual strategy that is the future for me of the Hispanic magazine industry?
Well, first of all, that was something that was planned from the beginning. I think it is a great. I think we are the only ones in the market that do that. We have our editions. I mean, we go to newsstands with an edition in Spanish. Well, we do have the choice for our readers to get the same magazine in English if they want it. I mean, we produce the same magazine that we produce in Spanish for newsstands. We produce that in English for subscribers that prefer to read what we produce in English. So yeah, as you said, there is this huge part of the market that speak exclusively in Spanish and wanna receive what they read in Spanish, but there is a lot of talking about integrated market. I mean, we're seeing that a lot of our readers also speak in English or prefer to get their content in English. So we're catering to that too. I think as a strategy, we are, again, the only ones that do that because we do have the same edition in English and Spanish. You can get it in both languages. It's not that we're sharing content in English and Spanish in one publication, but we have two mirror publications, one in Spanish and one in English.
Yeah, this is the only country where I feel that has to happen. Because most of the other countries, like if you go to Latin America or you go to Spain or Central America, there's the primary language, which is Spanish. But you come here and all of a sudden you have to deal with a fragmented Hispanic marketplace. So for you, Miguel, what's been the secret to unlocking those challenges and creating a clear vision of who your target audience is here in the United States?
I think it's basically the fact that we're trying also to reach a new generation of readers for HOLA. And the new generation is very fluid, language-wise and cultural-wise, and cultural talking. So, we want to reflect that fluidity in the way we produce content. We feel comfortable in both languages, so we want to produce that content for that very fluid generation. I mean, that generation that feels good comfortable in both languages, and adding, basically that's the idea, no? Produce something that is suitable for a generation that feels good culturally in both languages. They live fluidly between the two of them.
What's a Hispanic today to you? How does HOLA USA define a Hispanic celebrity?
A celebrity is a celebrity. And I think our readers want to read about entertainment. And we have the responsibility of covering what is ours and what belongs to our culture, but we also have the responsibility of cover entertainment. We do it in Spanish and in English, but we wanna write and we wanna portray everything that is relevant for our readers, and that makes a little difference because we want to talk about Wilmer as a Hispanic, and we want to talk about someone like Eva Longoria, who it's from a Mexican descendant, but it's someone that is huge and have done a lot for a Hispanic community in this country,
right?
And for women's rights and for everything. But also we want to talk about Miranda Kerr, and we want to talk about Eugenia de York and Gina Rodriguez, but also about Hilary Swank.
Right. So it's a combination.
It's more about what interests our readers. What do they want to read about?
And then right before we get to Sophia Carson and your cover story, I wanted to ask you about social media and how HOLA USA is using it in this particular marketplace. How are you having meetings with your digital people? What has been some of the exchanges of setting sort of a social media editorial tone, which I imagine is very different than the actual print publication?
First of yeah, it's not that it's different. It's another platform. I mean, we are a 360 operation enterprise. I mean, we do have the magazine, but we also have hola.com in English and Spanish.
And you have a television show, right?
Yeah, television channel, Hola TV, which is an integral part of what we do in the United States. And, we can offer that as it's a 360 platform where we can cover from different angles. The magazine, different from the magazine in Spain or in England, our frequency here is monthly. So, we don't get the luxury of breaking news, but we have other platforms like hola.com or holausa.com, which is in English and Spanish. And, that gives us space to that day-to-day, second after second cycle of news, entertainment news that we can cover. Hola USA as a magazine, it's, let's say, the platform where we can get into deeper conversation about subjects that we cover on a daily basis, on an hourly basis in our sites.
And then just a couple of more questions for you, Miguel. First of all, I really want to talk about Sophia Carson. This is somebody okay, so Sophia is becoming like a super rising star. She kind of is in the mold of Demi Lovato, Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez. She's Colombian. She belongs to the Char family. I used to live in Barranquilla, and the Chars are these heavyweight political figures that own radio stations. They're like media moguls in Colombia. She comes from that family. And the interesting thing, and we had kind of touched upon this, she's Hispanic American, right? She's bilingual, bicultural. She sings in English and Spanish. Tell me a little bit about choosing her for the cover.
She actually was born in Fort Lauderdale, so technically she's American.
So technically she's American, right? But myself, I was born in New York, but I consider myself Colombian American. I'm sure she does too. And it's that weird place where you're not Hispanic enough for Univision and Telemundo, but you're also not American enough for the big four networks like NBC, ABC, CBS, right? So you're kind of in this like weird limbo place.
Sophia also comes from this Disney generation that it's primarily huge on social media. I mean, let's talk about the 11.5 million followers that she has only in Instagram.
Only on Instagram, right?
Only on Instagram. 11.5. I mean, 11.4 high numbers. So, yeah, I mean, let's talk about an influence.
Yeah. So tell me why you wanted, outside of the followers, why did you choose to have her on your cover? And did you at any moment think she might have been too young for maybe the age range of your readership?
In the case of Sophia, there is something else that we're not mentioning here. Being Sophia so young and so prominent in music and, from that Disney generation, Sophia has a beautiful story that I think that was exactly what we wanted to highlight, is her philanthropic work, which is amazing to me, and I think it is a great example for young people around the world. Sophia belongs to this generation that is responsible to change the world. We're talking about corruption, we're talking about politics, and these are the guys that go out and vote and mobilize a generation of people that has the power of changing the world right now, and also they have the tools. They are experts on technology. They're wizards of social media, and I think they do have that language and that advantage, and they know it.
Yeah.
So when you talk to Sophia, we did the cover shoot here in New York City. She was coming back from singing in Italy for a big UNICEF gala over there, and also from Kenya. She was there with an organization that builds schools for girls, and they're responsible to empower a lot of women, girls, to be the women of the future. So when you hear her story and her compromise to that change in the world, you see beyond the celebrity factor, the glitter. You see this girl that is so conscious and so compromised to make people from her generation to go out and vote her conscience. That for me was the decisive key to have her on the magazine. Not only the fact that she's beautiful and she has so many followers, but the fact that she's using her point of influence to talk about subjects that really matter.
I'm sold, man. I'm sold on her now.
She's amazing. She's really, really, really amazing. And she really has an amazing following. So
yeah. And then
it was more than reasonable to have her on the cover. I mean, it's really an honor, actually, to have her on the cover.
And my last question to you, Miguel, is where do you want to take HOLA USA in the next year?
We wanna stay in this market. We wanna be here. We wanna grow. We wanna be this media company, 360 company, that have been in the market for so long, and we wanna keep being here and serving and trying to be the lab of what is gonna happen to the media. We want to be here. We want to be part of the change.
The new issue of HOLA USA with Colombian-American singer-actress Sofia Carson is on newsstands right now. Miguel Sirgado, editor-in-chief of HOLA USA, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's an honor for me to interview you.
No, thank you, Jack. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
All right, Miguel. Muchísimas gracias por todo, ¿eh?
Gracias a ti.
I'm bringing this one back. You ready? It's time for Jacked In. Let's begin with the top movie news of the week. Uruguayan director Fede Alvarez is the director for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo sequel. Asian director Cary Fukunaga will be directing the next James Bond movie, Bond 25. Eddie Murphy will star in the Grumpy Old Men remake. Aubrey Plaza will star in the reboot of Chucky. Joaquin Phoenix is the new Joker. Check out the photos on showbizcafe.com. And Marvel Studios just released the trailer for Captain Marvel, their first female superhero film. Here's a listen.
So you're not from around here?
It's hard to explain. I'm not what you think I am.
In TV news, the Emmy Awards crowned Game of Thrones Best Drama on TV and regrettably had the worst ratings in its history with 10.2 million viewers. Kelly Clarkson will have a new TV show and Daredevil will return for Season 3 on Netflix October 19th. Switching over to music, J Balvin tops the Latin Grammy nominations with 8, including Album of the Year and 2 Record of the Year nods. Don Omar announces new collaboration with Bad Bunny. Maroon 5 will perform during 2019 Super Bowl halftime show, and K-pop boy band BTS will be on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and Good Morning America September 25th and 26th respectively. And in digital and social media news, Apple has unveiled 3 new iPhones, iPhone XS, X Max, and XR. Instagram may let users start hiding hashtags from posts. Facebook Dating launched this week with a test in Colombia. Twitter has brought back chronological timelines, and Amazon debuted new Fire, Alexa, and Echo devices. In theaters this week is a Mexican art heist film unlike any art heist film you've seen before. It stars Gael Garcia Bernal and is directed by Mexican director Alonso Ruizpalacios. The Spanish-language film is based on this real-life story of two middle-class Mexicans who somehow pulled off one of the largest art robberies in modern-day history.
¿Dónde vas con esas bolsas?
Objetos tan importantes y valiosos como los antes mencionados han sido sustraídos por manos criminales. El Instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia alerta contra estos vándalos enemigos de su historia y de su herencia.
Lo que hicieron estos son gente miserable, sin pasado, sin futuro.
Alonso, welcome to the Highly Relevant Podcast.
Thank you very much.
So last night I had the pleasure to interview you in a Q&A moderation that was happening at the Angelica Film Center for the movie. It was you, Gael, and myself. And I learned so much about the intricacies and the little details of getting this movie together. And, you know, one of the key things that really sort of resonated with me, and we spoke about this last night, was about your fascination with the unknown, the abstract, the mysteries of why people do things. You know, why is this in particular something that you wanted to incorporate into the movie?
Well, I think the starting point for that was our frustration with the research. You know, that this film is based on a real story, and my co-writer Manuel Alcalá, he started researching this story a long time ago, and he had all these newspaper cuttings from 1985 when the thing happened, and then from when they got caught in 1989, but there were so many gaps, you know, that so many things that weren't clear. There was so much misinformation as well. So many of the notes that we found contradicted each other, and then the research that we did with people who knew these guys was also very contradictory. So at some point we decided that we had to embrace that was going to be a part of the essence of this story. And then that kind of drove us to reflect on storytelling in general and the relationship between history and fiction, you know, that it's a very close relationship, that in the end history is... we were also reading all these history books about the Mayas and about the Aztecs and also about the time when the museum was the anthropology museum was built,
right,
in the 60s, and so we just kept bumping into this thing that there was a lot of fiction in history, so we decided to embrace that as well.
Gael Garcia Bernal stars in the movie, and what is your relationship with Gael? Was this an audition that he did? Was it something that both of you were friends and both of you wanted to do a project together, and this was the project to do? How did that... ¿Cómo trabajó esa mancuerna?
I'd known Gael for a long time. We both studied in acting in London. Different schools, but you know, we knew each other from then, and you know, we'd always said we have to find something to do one day, and then when I was writing this screenplay, his face just kept coming to my mind, and and that, I mean, it's kind of how it works. Like once you see an actor's face or a person's face in the character when you're writing, it becomes easier. You like start to flow, and that's what happened in this case. When I saw, it was like, who is this guy that I'm seeing? And when I realized it was Gael, and then the writing started to flow more easily. And you know, I needed somebody who was short as well, because the character was short, but also, you know, I think it was an important thing in like this kind of Napoleon syndrome, you know,
right.
To overcompensate or something. So that was important, but also I needed a strong leading man who could portray a thief, you know, somebody that you would condemn, but that you'd also fall in love with, you know. So I think he was the guy for it. And so I told him I was making this movie. I told him the story, and he immediately, like, it was very easy to for him to get on board. He really liked it from the start.
One of the things is that people, when they hear an art heist movie, they start thinking about, movies like How to Steal a Million, Ocean's 11, all those great films about people breaking either into a bank or into a museum or something like that.
Yeah.
And they think of this almost action adventure film. That's how we're conditioned and programmed in Hollywood to give us. This is not that. So describe the tone of the film for us and what people can expect to see.
Well, that's a tough one for me because I still don't quite know what the tone is. I think this movie, it's been a process of discovering what face it has, what kind of beast it is. It definitely has elements of heist. It has elements of a road trip because after the heist, the kids go on a trip to try to sell these pieces, and they can't get rid of them. So there's something of a road movie. There's the drama about how the protagonists kind of start losing their morality and they start losing their sanity also as the film progresses, and they can't do anything with these pieces and they lose all purpose. And there's also a lot of comedy in it. So I think it's a kind of a hodgepodge kind of film. I don't know. I mean, there's also elements of other films that I love. It's a film that also reflects on film itself, I guess.
So those are two things I wanted to talk to you about. One of them was the comedy, which I thought was particularly fascinating to me. And then the other one that I wanted to ask, what kind of films did you see to construct your vision and your emotional mood about this film?
Well, I mean, watching heist movies was, of course, it was something that we had to do because I'd never shot anything that came near this kind of genre, which is a genre. And even though I knew my film wasn't going to subscribe to the heist movie genre,
right, you're going to be inspired by it.
Exactly, it wasn't going to subscribe to it completely because the story didn't fit in a heist movie. There is a heist, but that's about it. So we did watch a lot of heist movies. We watched particularly Jules Dassin's Rififi, which is a 1950s.
That's a great one. That's one of the the best heist movies of all time, right?
I agree. I think it's a masterpiece. We also saw Michael Mann's Thief.
You want to put down contract scores all over the country, working directly for me? I am self-employed.
And all these movies kind of spoke to us about the labor of the thief. The how they have to. It's hard work, stealing something. They're kind of really simpatico to the point of view of the thief and the amount of planning and hard work that he has to do to complete his feat. So that's what we got from those films. And also we saw over and over Terrence Malick's Badlands.
My girl Holly and I decided to kill ourselves, same way I did her dad.
Just in the way that he dealt with a real life story and kind of made it his own, and he departed from the real story a long way, but there was still he still kept many elements of the real story. So Badlands was, and I love the relationship to nature and all of this that he has in his films, but I think it's for me it's the right mix. I think his later films are perhaps a bit too indulgent in this from my taste. But Badlands, I think, is an absolute masterpiece. So we did see it a couple of times.
This is a movie based on a true story, and I was wondering if you had a chance to actually speak to the original thieves, and how much did you gather from that, and how much did you use it in the film?
No, we had no communication with the thieves because one of them is dead. So we probably need a Ouija board for that. or some kind of thing. And the other one was never caught. And there's rumors that he fled to Finland or to Iceland. We've heard like different.
So you don't know if he's dead. You don't know if he's alive. No one knows anything. So this is like an unsolved mystery.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly that. I mean, we've only heard rumors of people that know the families, but again, they're all contradictory. Some people had told us that he's in Iceland. Others said he was in Finland. Some said that he comes back sometimes to Mexico on a different identity. So we don't know. And at some point we decided we didn't want to dig deeper into that because everything was telling us. I mean, we weren't doing a documentary, that we knew that from the start, and the families we tried to reach out to their families, and they very soon they said they didn't want to be part of the film.
Now, what about the humor of this film in particular? There was a scene that I was cracking up, and it was a wink at the celebrity and fame of Gael Garcia.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the part in where the military men stop Gael and I think it was Benjamin.
Yeah.
They stop them, they check through their bags, and they find some of the artifacts, but they thought it was like handcrafted stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, wait a minute, I think you're a big-time actor, aren't you?" And then he asks for his autograph. Yeah. And I didn't exactly know where that was going. Yeah. Because that was piercing the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And it was making me go, "Oh, wait a minute. Is this still a part of the movie, or is this a wink to Gael's celebrity?" Yeah. Because if it is, very clever. But the problem is that some people might be so distracted by it that it might almost take him out of the film.
Yeah.
How did you manage to balance that?
Well, I mean, it was something that occurred to me on the spot. It wasn't in the script. In my previous film, Güeros, they do break the fourth wall at some point, and then the film carries on. And I didn't intend to do this time, but it just kind of happened because it kept happening as we were shooting. When you're shooting with Gael in Mexico, people come up to him all the time, and you're in the middle of a scene and people just kind of walk in the shot and ask for an autograph or something. So that kept happening, and I thought it was kind of funny the way he became annoyed by it. So I said, well, I'm gonna include that in the film, and
it was great.
Yeah, and I think it works because it also became like a comment on our nation's priorities. They're more interested in getting an autograph than in catching the thieves.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. I did not see it like that, but now it becomes very clear to me now that you mention it.
Yeah, I mean, when we kind of discovered that that's what that scene could do, then we kept it, and it became very interesting to me, like the fact that they have them, they've stopped them. They could just, trap them and try and put them on trial or whatever. But instead of doing that and of doing their job properly, he's more interested in getting an autograph. So it's kind of, it was an interesting reflection, I think, on the way things are done in Mexico sometimes, which is sad. It's sad, but it's also funny.
Yeah, the camera work was very interesting on your part, Alonso. There were a selection of shots that seemed experimental, such as the snapshot scenes within the museum. The snapshot scenes, just to explain to the people that are listening, there was a scene where you're supposed to be taking, I think the effect was trying to replicate a Polaroid snapshot.
Yeah.
But instead of being still, they were moving.
Yeah.
You heard the audio effect, but the scenes were moving, and I said, wait a minute, was that a mistake or not?
Yeah.
Once again, you were trying to be clever and trying to be innovative and auteurish with your camera work. And so I wanted to talk about your directorial style. Is this something that you like to do?
Yeah.
To throw the audience off, or is this something that is a happy accident that happens in the editing booth?
Well, I think it's both, but it's my decision to leave. Some things are accidents, and it's like, some things happen by accident. But then when you look at them, you think this is actually really cool, and I'll leave that. But I guess I'm interested generally in like the playing aspect of filmmaking. It's something that you have to take seriously, but not so seriously. It's a game, and I think film grammar and film language are there to be explored and stretched and squeezed, and I like to do that. I enjoy and I learn from the process. So those particular things you say, sometimes they occur to us on the set. Sometimes we had planned them, like the stills. We had planned those beforehand, and there's some thought process behind it. It wasn't just like, oh, let's try to be clever or cool. We were actually trying to say, okay, well, how would let's show the rest of the heist, because of the first piece that they steal is depicted very meticulously. We see shots for every single action that they do, and it takes them a long time to do it. But then after they take the first piece from the case, they break into the glass case. Then you have to be elliptical for the rest of the pieces. They stole 150 pieces, so we can't show all 150 in the same way.
Right.
So we decided that it was. We had these pictures from the day after the theft. These real pictures, like for the reporters' pictures, and they were, full of their fingerprints, and it was like a forensics examination. And we said, well, let's present it like a forensics reconstruction, like how the police would have reconstructed it if they had been there, and so
right.
So that was the idea, that it was like snapshots, forensic snapshots.
Now, a lot of people sometimes, especially in the critics field, when they see a director interject their style into a film, a lot of critics sometimes don't like that because they're interjecting themselves into the story somehow, and affecting that universe.
Yeah.
In your particular case, when you do things like that, do you ever get any feedback from other directors going, hey, no deberías de hacer eso, no te interyectes, things like that? Or is it more like, let's support the creativity of the director in the story?
Well, I think both cases. I mean, I'm interested in films that develop both substance and style simultaneously. And I don't think visual experimentation should be left aside necessarily. I don't believe that. I mean, that way of looking at filmmaking doesn't interest me. That way of it must all be clinical, and everything is fake. So it's just a matter of how you tell something. So yeah, I've had that kind of feedback, but I've also, I think you feel that in a film if there's no thought process behind the decisions and they're just arbitrary, cool-looking shots. And I really try not to do that. And I don't think I did that in this film. Every decision has a reasoning behind it, and that reason always for me has to do with the story.
Finally, Alonso, there's the ending of the film, which I thought was very interesting, and I think it left the audience wanting to know why. Mm-hmm. Why did these two thieves end up doing it? And the film doesn't necessarily tell you. And so I've spoken to Miguel Arteta about the same exact reason of why there's some movies that have these endings where they don't feel complete. And as a viewer, sometimes I get very frustrated with the director for not giving me a completion. If I'm investing my money and I'm sitting there for 2 hours and you're not going to tell me why these guys did this, I'm going to be a little bit angry.
Yeah.
How do you deal with audiences that want a complete answer when creatively you don't want to do that?
Yeah, I understand that some people will be frustrated by us not answering straight, but some people will be stimulated, and I'm interested in talking to those who of the second kind that don't want every single answer to be spoon-fed into them. And in Spanish we have the saying, uno no es monedita de oro para gustarle a todos.
Bueno, Alonso, muchísimas gracias for being on the show and deconstructing the film for us and allowing the people to listen to your vision of what you have in Museo. I highly enjoyed it. I think everyone should go check it out. It's one of the more interesting stories in Mexico in the last 20 to 30 years. And I think it's one of the most interesting stories, period, about art theft in the world. So, muchísimas gracias por hacer la película. Thank you very much, Alonso.
Gracias a ti.
That's it for episode 93 of the Highly Relevant Podcast. I want to thank Miguel Sirgado and director Alonso Ruizpalacios. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversations as well. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by sharing us on social media and telling all your friends about it. You can reach me on Twitter at JackRicoOfficial and Instagram at JackRico. Also remember to tune in Saturday morning, October 6th on NBC to catch the premiere episode of my brand new show, Consumer 101. I'm Jack Rico. See you next week on another episode of Highly Relevant.